Well, wasn't that a debacle last night? I've never seen a team play such a good game, yet blow it and lose such an important game all in the same game. The Florida Panthers were in town last night, and this was probably the most dominant I've seen the Leafs play possibly entirely this season, but at least for a long time this season. They they came out in the first period. They were up 9 or 10 shots to nothing, before Florida even got a sniff of a chance. And they couldn't convert on any of those first period opportunities, but Florida scored on their second shot. so despite having a hell of a period, the Leafs, they went down 1-0 in the period, and making matters worse, Freddie got run into a couple times in the crease, and although he hung in there for the rest of the first period, when the team came out for the second period, he was no longer in. Hutchison was in, and it sounds like after the fact that he went through some concussion protocol, which was fine. He came out positive on that, but they kept him out for, I think, precautionary reasons, and they've dubbed it an upper body injury. So we're going to find out in the coming days what, if he's going to miss time, if he's not, what exactly is going on with him. So second period, though, the Leafs were... It was the best period of hockey I think I've seen them play all year. They were great defensively. Hutchison was good. He wasn't tested all that much, but he was great when he was. And the Leafs just took it to the Panthers. They fired tons of shots at them, and they finally got on the board, and they actually took a 2-1 lead by scoring twice in the period. A few minutes in, Tavares got them on the board on a power play. They were throwing it around a bit, and then Marner from the left wall centered it for Tavares, who was in the low slot, and he just kind of deftly redirected it into the far low corner of the net. And then with just like a minute or less than a minute left in the second period, they were kind of set up in the zone again, 5-on-5, and a chance kind of went south, and I think Florida blocked a shot or whatever, and then the puck kind of squirted out to Kapanen high in the zone, and then he just kind of curled at the top of the right side, and then fired a nice little pass to Nylander, who was parked off to the left side of the net, and he just kind of same thing as far as redirected it into the net, and that was the 2-1 lead. And then to make matters even I guess better / worse, whatever way you want to look at it, they came out, and less than a minute into the third, Matthews got a goal on a nice little it was almost like a 3-on-3. It was bizarre, but somehow the Leafs were able to throw it across between each other. It was Marner, Matthews, and Hyman, and somehow make some passes that Florida didn't intercept, and then Hyman eventually centered it from the left side to Matthews right in front of the net, right at the top of the crease, and he just banged it home through Bobrovsky's legs. And at this point, it was 3-1 Leafs. They had dominated the game. Florida was lucky to be on the board at that point, and then over the course of the rest of the third period, like, everything fell apart. Despite the Leafs still not playing that bad for the most part. They just it was a bad penalty by Marner. I hate hooking penalties. Like, just leave your stick on the ice. It doesn't matter anymore. If a guy's gonna get away from you, he's gonna get away from you, and all you're gonna do is hook him or whatever, and then you're gonna be killing a penalty, or they're gonna get a penalty shot depending on the situation, whatever it might be. Just, if you're gonna get a penalty, be in front of a guy and hit him hard. I don't care if it's cheap. I don't care if it's a vicious elbow. Make it count if you're going to sit in the box for 2 minutes. Like, it was a little hook between the legs, and it's like, and they still had guys back in the zone. Like, it was so needless. So Marner took a stupid penalty, and then Ceci had a couple of bad shifts. A reverse behind the net that he didn't even really... It was a backhanded reverse, and he didn't really look where he was sending it, and he didn't put enough mustard on it, and it just kind of... It didn't even reverse behind the net. It just went to the one side of the net and back out, and then it kept the play alive, and Florida was scrambling all around the Leaf zone and eventually went in. And then the Marner penalty I mentioned, they were on the penalty kill there, and then Florida scored on that power play. And a lot of people are laying the blame on Hutchison's shoulders, but remember, Fred let a goal in the first period on not that many shots, and then Hutch comes in and he plays a great second period, but then in the third period, when the Leafs are serving up pizzas all over their own end, then everybody's down on the Hutch. Well, maybe he could have had one of those, but you know what? The fact is, their defensive coverage was lousy at times. They took bad penalties, and it's not all his fault. So. But like I said, overall, for the most part, their third period was okay. It wasn't like that they totally collapsed. It was just a few instances of bad coverage and bad decisions and a power play, and that was it. Florida, I think, scored 2 goals in the first half of the third after Matthews opened the scoring to tie things up. And then right at the halfway point, they scored to take a 4-3 lead early. And then as the Leafs were pressing later in the game, they popped an empty netter on them. So it was, like I said, just such a bizarre game. For 2 periods plus even, they were so dominant. And it looked like, especially when Matthews scored 3-1 early in the third and they still had all this momentum, that it was just over. And then just... I can't even, I was just sitting there on the couch going, what the fuck? But, that's why you have to play all 60 minutes and be focused the entire time, because one bad play leads to another, and all of a sudden you're, in a span of a few minutes, you're losing, right? So, there was lots of stuff going into this game. Kapanen was a healthy scratch last game, like I mentioned. I didn't realize it was because he was missing meetings and stuff, sleeping in or practices, so they tried to send him a message, and Keefe has been bandying about the term immature around the team to try and get them to wake up and stuff. And I think the guys on the panel were talking about how that third period and their Marner complaining about the penalty he took to the refs afterwards, and CeCe's lack of focus on that reverse and a couple of other coverage issues he had was kind of that lack of maturity they were talking about. And so I don't know. They'll hopefully Keefe will use this situation to his maximum potential for a coaching moment. But this was an important game otherwise, because Florida's the team that they're battling with for that third position in the conference. And it was funny going into this game. The Leafs were 2 points ahead of the Panthers in the standings. They averaged the exact same amount of goals per game, 3.6, and the exact same almost amount of shots per game. They were both like 32 or 33 points, something. Like the team seemed so close in so many ways that this had all the markings to be a really tight game, and obviously a very important one, since the Leafs were only 2 points ahead of them for that third position, and they've played 2 more games too, so there's that. And so for them to let that slip away in the third, like they just shot themselves in the foot in a huge way in that game. That should have been seal that win and extend that lead to 4 points, which would have wiped out the 2 games in hand that Florida has right on them. So, but they didn't. They blew it, and now they're in a much worse position than they were a day ago. So they have 2 more games against them before the end of the season. So those are obviously going to factor in to be pretty huge contests, unless they fall out of the picture, then it probably won't matter. But anyways, yeah, they blew it. They let one slip through their hands. Hopefully Fred's okay. But it's up to them what they want to do with it. So we'll see how they respond in the next game. They're in New York on Wednesday, I think, the Rangers. And we'll see if they come out flying in that game. And if they throw, like Keefe said after the game in his press conference, it was like, you know what, if we throw out that kind of game, and that kind of effort and that kind of dominance against a team, we're going to win 99 out of 100 times with a game like that. But this is the one time where things go wrong and they didn't win, right? So yeah, you can't knock their effort and the way they dominated them for most of the game. But like I said, just a few bad decisions and a few lapses in judgment or whatever, and it can haunt you. That's why they play playing the full 60 minutes is such a cliche in the hockey world, but it's so true, right? So, but anyways, I'm babbling now, but we'll see what happens in New York on Wednesday, and fingers crossed for a big win, and have a great couple days before then. So long.